The average American family spends 30 years paying off a home that was built to last 12 months. Pass the warranty inspection. That is not an accident. That is a business model. The plumbing running through your walls right now is the clearest evidence of how that model works against every person who signs a mortgage and trusts that a new house means a safe house. 40% of all residential water damage claims in the United States trace back to a single component, not a burst pipe, not a failed water heater. A braided hose the size of your forearm that the builder purchased for $3 and installed behind your toilet, your bathroom sink, and your washing machine without a second thought? $3? And when it fails, the average insurance claim runs between $12,000 and $15,000. That gap between what the builder spent and what you lose is not a flaw in the system. It is the system working exactly as intended. This channel exists because someone has to say it out loud. The corporations building new homes in America are not construction companies. They are transaction companies. Their product is not a house. Their product is a closing. Everything inside the walls, every pipe, every fitting, every valve, every drain joint was specified by people who will never live with the consequences of those specifications, you will. And the term they invented to make that arrangement sound acceptable is builder grade. Builder grade is not a quality standard. It has no certification body, no independent testing requirement, and no accountability mechanism of any kind. It means the cheapest material that satisfies the minimum legal threshold required to pass a code inspection on the day the inspector shows up. The moment that inspection is signed off, the builder's obligation is finished. Yours is just beginning, and it runs for 3 decades. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what changed in residential construction over the last 25 years. There was a generation of plumbers who treated their work as a permanent record of their skill. A soldered copper joint was not just a connection. It was a craftsman's signature, installed with the expectation that it would outlast everyone in the room. That expectation created accountability. When your name and your reputation are tied to the work inside a wall, you do not cut corners on the fitting. That accountability is gone. The plumber on a modern production job site is not a craftsman. He is a subcontractor paid by speed, working under a schedule designed to move the house through framing, rough-in, and inspection as fast as physically possible. The material he installs is not chosen for performance. It is chosen for margin. And the material that won the margin war in the early 2000s was PEX, flexible, cross-linked polyethylene tubing that replaced the copper standard builders had used for most of the 20th century. PEX is not inherently bad. The engineering behind the material is sound. The problem is not the pipe. The problem is the connection. To keep labor costs down, production builders pair PEX with brass crimp fittings, the cheapest joining method available. In any home with moderately hard water, those brass fittings begin a slow chemical process called desensification. The water pulls zinc out of the metal over years, leaving behind a brittle, porous shell where there was once a solid connection. This does not happen in year 1 or year 2. It happens between year 8 and year 15. That window is not a coincidence. It lands squarely after the warranty expires, and squarely inside the years you are still carrying the mortgage. When a crimp fitting finally gives way inside a wall cavity, there is no sound. PEX is flexible. The water does not burst. It seeps slowly into the insulation, down into the subfloor, and along the framing until the damage is structural. The first sign you get is a stain on a ceiling. By that point, the repair is not a plumbing job. It is a remediation project, and it costs between $15,000 and $25,000. The builder saved a few $100s on fittings across the entire house. The supply line failure follows the same logic taken to a more immediate extreme. Every toilet, every faucet, every washing machine in your home connects to the water supply through a short braided hose. Builders install the cheapest version on the market, a rubber core wrapped in a thin woven metal jacket rated for 5 to 7 years of service. Every home has between 8 and 12 of them. The builder spends $3 per line. A commercial-grade alternative, built with a reinforced polymer core and rated for over 20 years, costs $8. That $5 difference is the entire reason your home is sitting on components with a known expiration date that nobody told you about at closing. When one of these lines fails, it does not drip. It releases full water pressure into an enclosed space. A line that fails at 2 in the morning floods every floor it can reach before anyone wakes up. The damage is immediate, total, and expensive. Replacing all 12 lines in your home with commercial-grade alternatives costs under $80 in parts and takes 1 hour. No builder on a production schedule makes that substitution because the savings belong to the builder and the consequences belong to you. The water heater compounds every other problem in the system. Every residential tank operates with 2 safety components that stand between normal function and a serious hazard. The temperature and pressure relief valve releases pressure if the tank exceeds safe operating limits. The thermal expansion tank absorbs the pressure created each time water heats and expands inside a closed system. Builders install the lowest cost version of both, and both fail within 3 to 5 years. A T&P valve with degraded plastic internals either weeps constantly or seizes shut entirely. A seized valve on an overheating tank cannot release pressure. That is not a maintenance issue. That is a danger. When the expansion tank bladder fails and the tank fills with water, it stops absorbing pressure entirely. Every heating cycle sends excess pressure cycling through the entire plumbing system, accelerating the desensification in the crimp fittings, stressing the rubber cores in the supply lines, and loading every weak point in the network simultaneously. The builder saved $40 on these 2 components. What you inherit is a system under continuous, compounding stress that nobody designed to last. The drain lines tell the same story from underneath the floor. Before the 1980s, residential drain lines were cast iron. The pipes installed in homes during the 1950s and 1960s are still carrying wastewater today without incident. Modern production builders use ABS plastic because it is lighter, faster to install, and significantly cheaper. The plastic itself is functional. The installation is not. On a production job site, a plumber connecting ABS drain lines with solvent cement is working under the same scheduled pressure as everyone else on site. Solvent cement joints require proper surface preparation, correct application volume, and adequate set time to form a permanent chemical weld. Under production pressure, joints get rushed, get under-cemented, assembled at the wrong angle, or moved before the cement is cured. The joint holds on inspection day. It holds for a few years. Then the repeated thermal cycling of hot water from the dishwasher followed by cold rinse cycles begins working on the compromised weld, and eventually the joint separates. In a home built on a concrete slab, that separation is invisible. The first sign is an odor you cannot locate. Sewer gas leaking through a gap beneath the foundation. Then moisture follows. By the time the problem is diagnosed, the repair requires breaking through the concrete slab, excavating around the failed joint, and repouring the foundation. A single rushed joint costs between $3,000 and $8,000 to fix. Upgrading to cast iron on the original build adds $1,500 to $2,500 to the total construction cost. Spread across a 30-year mortgage that is less than $7 a month, the builder will not spend it because after closing, the slab is your problem. Here is what you do about it. If your home was built after 2005, you go to every toilet, every faucet, and your washing machine, and you replace every supply line with a commercial-grade reinforced polymer core line. $8 each, under $80 total, 1 hour of work. You replace the T&P valve on your water heater with a brass commercial unit and you test it every year. You press the valve on top of the expansion tank, and if water comes out instead of air, you replace it immediately. You look at every accessible PEX brass fitting for green discoloration, which is desensification in progress, and at every push to connect fitting for any sign of moisture. And if your home sits on a slab, you spend $150 to $300 on a drain line camera inspection before a smell in the hallway turns into a jackhammer in your living room. Total cost, under $500. Average water damage claim, $12,500. The builder graded your home for one outcome, closing day. Everything after that was never their problem. Now you know what to do about it. Subscribe. Next video, we go inside the electrical panel and name the specific brand of circuit breaker, installed in tens of millions of American homes with a documented connection to residential fires. You need to know if it is in your house.